Okay, so I am back here again. This is just shortly after my sniper tutorial, my impromptu sniper tutorial. Hopefully all of you can hear me properly. I'm not sure, but hopefully. So I'm going to just show you how to use the M4A1, my favorite gun of the entire bloody world. Okay, so let's do this. Put some dummies as always. And we're gonna have one crouching one over there. Cool, right? Nice lineup of dummies. Right? I was like, oh, how do you get headshots so easily? Like, I'm not like perfect, but you know, I get headshots, you know, decently, like, you know, 56.77% of the time. At least that's what the records say. But you know, for some of you, you might be at 20%. You're like, I want to increase it. How do I increase it? And so how you increase it is practice, basically. So with the M4, you get your basic spray patterns, right? I'm gonna just hold the left click. See, this goes up, goes right, and see, it goes left too. So it's like it goes like kind of like a bird's foot sort of thing. So you know, so people would call this a V pattern gun because it kind of shoots in a V, with the exception of like the up, which is kind of like a standard recoil sort of thing. So step one, control the recoil. Basic, right? So you're just gonna hold it down, and your goal is to try to make a nice ball, right? You want to ball your shots. Right, that's your goal. If you want to do well with an M4, you want to be able to do this because you're having a firefight, right? Say you're having a firefight, some guy's in long distance, right? And you want to hit the guy's face. You're not going to be like, oh crap, you know, I'm shooting the sky now. It's like, and the guy's down there. You're going to die, right? If he can ball his shots, then he'll have the advantage, right? Simple as that. So when should you scope? When should you not scope? Well, you know, I scope, you know, mid-distance as well, but some people prefer not to. They prefer to just like, you know, peek shoot without having to scope. You know, that's great. You know, if you can like, you know, like one tap or two tap or whatever. But you know, but if you were to scope in, you get, I guess, more controlled recoil, so it's much easier for you to actually control and ball your shots. Look at it, it's even like tighter than if I were to not scope in. So kind of take your pick. Of course, you know, you wouldn't be like, you know, say the enemy's here, you're not gonna scope in like this. Like, come on, you're like 2 centimeters away from this guy's face. Like, you're not gonna scope in, right? You're gonna just not scope in and shoot him, right? But if you're here, you know, you might scope in, right? You know, that's great, you know, you're gonna scope in, whatever. You know, that's fine. Some people don't scope in, they just go, you know, pop, pop, pop. That's cool too, right? In fact, it's actually faster to not scope in. But some people prefer to get that like little extra close-up zoom for that extra aim. You know, that's great. You can do that. But of course, long distance, it's kind of obvious to scope in. Sometimes people even crouch and scope in. So it kind of, you know, it's your preference. I sometimes crouch, I sometimes don't. It's all preference. It depends on situation. Okay, so now that you got the hang of balling your shots, knowing when to scope in and when to not scope in, now let's start actually shooting people. How do you shoot people? Well, say this is a person, you shoot them. Easy as that, right? You just shoot them. Easy as that. But notice, when I shoot them here, it takes 6 bullets. Right? It takes like 6 bullets. This is not effective, right? Say this dummy is like some super pro, you know, expert guy. Say he's like, you know, Crank or whatever. Like, say he's like some super pro guy. The moment you come out of this room and you start shooting his feet, you would have been headshotted 15 minutes ago. So that's not effective. So what you want to do is something called headline. headlines. So pretty much when you run, you're gonna just look left and right, left and right. You're not gonna look up and down unless you're, you know, they're up there and you kind of know where their head is. But you're gonna just look left, right. That's the basic part. Just left, right, left, right. You know, just nice sweep, nice sweep, nice sweep. Right? You don't even need to aim. You just go like bam. Just you know, eventually hit some guy's head, and it's great. Right? That's the headline. Right? You're not aiming at the head. You're just aiming headline. And so this is where crouching is effective on your side, but I'm gonna go through that later. But yeah, so headline, most basic thing ever. Of course, with balling your shots, you can prevent the kick that goes up like this, right? So when you headline, you're not gonna be like, and, you know, go all crazy. You're gonna actually be like, okay, I'm gonna actually go in the horizontal line and not, you know, screw my aim over, right? So that's the headline. Right? And you have to note that headline is different than aiming at the head. Aiming at the head means I'm actually aiming at the head and then pressing the trigger. Aiming at the head, pressing the trigger. That part takes a bit of skill. You know, if you go in a sniping tutorial, you kind of see that you gotta learn how to use your wrist or use your arms or whatever you're using. To aim, you know, whatever it is. You know, some people are wrist users. Some people, you know, rotate at their elbows. We all have our preferences, but for me, I kind of use a mix of both wrist and arms. So, of course, for short distance, it's more so of a wrist thing. But yeah. I'm not going to go over sensitivity of the mouse or any of that stuff. That's all up to you. You know, if you want high sensitivity, that's great. You know, you can you know, do this and then do this in like 1 millimeter. Fantastic, right? If you want to do that. So now that you know headline, following your shots and all that good stuff, you can pretty much effectively headshot people. Pretty much effectively. Like, you run around a corner, right? You don't know where he is. You know he's around this area, right? He's around here. But you're around this corner. You can't see him. So all you do, headline, and, you know, eventually you get some guy's face. Eventually. Right? You'll see him and you'll be like, oh, he's over there. Let's shoot him. And, you know, bam. Headshot. Cool. Right? You got that down. You got the headline. Now, aiming at the head, right? You want to increase that headshot rate. You want to get that KDR. What are you going to do? You aim at the head. And this actually takes some basic skills. So it takes headlining, which is what you learned earlier, but also takes aiming, right? Aiming is the hard part, right? Like, I'm sure all of you can basically aim. Like, you guys shoot people's feet, you guys shoot people's, like, backs, you know, arms, whatever. You guys have some sort of aim, right? You guys are not terrible people, right? It's not like you're like, oh, I'm shooting the wall, and I'm like, oh, I finally killed him. You know, you're not like that. Yeah, you're probably not that bad at aiming. Okay, so now that you're headlining, all you're doing is just aim at the guy, right? Because you're already headlined, you don't even be like, oh, I gotta aim at his head. Nope. Just aim at him, right? He's over there. And I'm headlining, so I'm just moving my mouse over. He's over there. And what are you gonna do? You just shoot. And guess what's that? It's a headshot. Simple as that. Right? And that's great. Nice job. And eventually you can pick up the pace. You can be like, you know, whatever, you know, shoot their heads. You be like, oh yeah, I'm shooting these guys so quickly, you know, it's so easy, you know, whatever, it's so easy. Of course I failed terribly there, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You practice against these dummies. You're like, oh man, like I can aim at these heads all day. Like I can just like kill them all in like 5 seconds flat, easy. Great. You know, that's great. You know, you can aim. Of course, the next practice would be actually against moving bots or against other people. And, you know, once you get through that stage, you can pretty much be the best there ever was. Hint, hint, Pokemon. Anyway. So there's another thing, another concept, right? You can headline, you can aim, right? You can aim, great, you can aim, great. Cool. It's called the peak, right? The peak. See, here's a right peak, and a left peak will be here, like this. So what is a peak? How do you do it? How do you do a peaking? right? You want to peek because you're a creeper. You want to peek people. How do you do it? Say I want to creep this guy, right? You're essentially holding shift, at least how I do it. You know, I'm not pro. Hold shift, and you just go ASDW, ASDW, ASDW. And when you peek, make sure you're actually trying to aim, right? I'm trying to aim at that little gap right there, right? See? That little gap. That's where I'm trying to aim, right? And so good practice is actually putting some dummies and be like, okay, so guys over here, what I'm gonna do? See? You peek. Because you're not running out here like this and shooting. See, look at my body. It's exposed. You don't want that. You want to just peek. And what peeking does, if you do a right peek, they'll see your head. You know, they'll see your head for sure because you're right-handed. They'll see your head, and they could probably pick you off if you peek, if you overextend like this, right? You're trying to peek, and you're like, oh, you know, peek like this, and they're over there. They're like, oh, wow, he's obvious. They'll shoot you. So all you do is just peek a little bit, enough to see what you want to see, right? You want to see this corner. So okay, so just peek so you can only see that, right? You're not so like that. But say you want to see the dummy, okay? Peek to see the dummy. And then you would shoot because you're already headlined. You're like, hey, you know, my crosshair goes over his face. Let's shoot, right? And so this takes practice, right? I'm not gonna expect you guys to like be pro in one day, unless you're like practicing really hard. And so right peek is exactly the same, right? Exactly the same thing. Peek what you want to peek. Don't just be like, peek, I'm peeking, you know, look at this, I'm peeking. Like, you're gonna die. You're pretty much like running out in the open, right? Peek what you want to peek. I want to peek this corner, peek this little corner, right? You're not gonna like, don't run out. Some people peek like this, like they kind of do this. And this helps too, because you kind of like give yourself an extra, you know, some extra vision. And also like your head is kind of being avoided. Like, you're not gonna expose your head out too much. They won't see your face. They'll see like the side of your head, and that's okay too. You know, maybe you're not trying to kill people, but you know, at least you can kind of like see. You know, oh no, there's a sniper. Okay, we're not gonna go there. We're gonna go around at the back, right? So that's why people peek. One of the reasons, at least that's for me. And so right peeking, however, right peeking makes it that your head doesn't get exposed, which is great. Right? Of course, if you peek too much, they'll see your head, but if you peek just enough to see what you want to see, they'll see only your shoulder because you're right-handed. It's weird. That's how the game works. They'll only see your shoulder. And so when they try to shoot you, they'll just shoot your shoulder, and you'll be like, haha, I only take 10 damage, but for you, you know, I shoot you in the face, you're already dead. So that's the difference between left peeking and right peeking. That's how it is. It's how the game works. Cool. So you know how to peek, you know all that. So crouching, right? I mentioned crouching earlier. You're probably wondering, okay, what's he gonna say about crouching, right? I heard he says he doesn't do it very often, but when does he do it except long distances? So say you're having a firefight, right? And you're against a good player. He's gonna go for your head, right? No doubt. He's not gonna be like, I'm gonna shoot his feet because, you know, whatever. Like, oh yeah, I'm so pro, I'm just gonna shoot their feet. No. Right? He's gonna go for your head. He'll be like, bam! He'll want that head. And so say he comes out, what do? Right? At least for me, how I view it, is I'd be like, oh crap, he's over there. You know, either you're gonna A, try to outshoot him with your quick, super speedy reflexes, or you're gonna just be like, hey, I'm gonna run in, crouch. And for him, he's gonna look at it. See? Look at this guy. He's standing, right? But say he crouches, he'll be like, bam, and I'll be like, oh crap, you know, I'm already shooting, and I have recoil, so I'm kind of like, oh no, I gotta drag it down, and so it takes effort to actually like drag it down to their face. So it gives them a bit of effort, but of course they can quickly be like, oh yeah, headshot, right? So if you're too far, he'll be like, what's this idiot doing? And headshot. Too close, you can kind of be like, lol, you know, all that stuff. But, you know, use it with discretion. I'm not gonna patent it. You know, it's not really a skill. It might work, it might not. I'm not too sure. I haven't really tested it. Sometimes it looked like it worked. That's for you to find out. And if it works for you, definitely use it. And so yeah, so you can ball your shots, you can headline, you can aim for heads, you can left peek, you can right peek. That's pretty much all you need, right? All you need for using the M4. And for every other assault rifle, that's pretty much all you need. It's simple as that. It's not rocket science, right? Some people are like, how do you get those headshots? Well, headline and aim at the head, right? It's like you're not really aiming at the head. You're kind of actually just saying, hey, I'm going to aim at this guy, right? Since I'm already headline, I'm going to aim at this dummy. Hey, his head's right there. Easy. Okay. So I'm going to introduce another concept. It's going to be called pre-firing. You might be like, oh, well, hacker, man, he's a waller. No, right? People pre-fire all the time. Say you hear a sound, right? It sounds like some guy's running out in this area right here, right? You hear footsteps right here. You hear this sound, like see, you hear this. So you notice you hear wood, right? And you hear footsteps like this, like that, right? You hear that transition from this to this. So, and say you're over here, you're gonna be like, crap, some guy's gonna be coming out pretty soon. So what you're gonna do? You're gonna run out and you're gonna like that. You're gonna shoot. If you're lucky, you're gonna hit their head and they die. If you don't, at least you're already aimed, and so you're gonna be like, oh, he comes out, he's dead. Or you're gonna just hold the trigger and be like, and he just runs right through and just boom, headshotted. Right, so that's pre-firing, and the only way to do that is if you actually use your headphones. Like here, the differences between this ground, between this, notice the sounds are slightly different, right? Here, this one's like hugely different, right? Different places have different sounds, and use that to your advantage. Make sure you do that, or otherwise you're gonna be like, you're gonna run out like, oh, some guy might be here, oh, I'm gonna run out, and you're like looking at the window, backing off, but then the guy comes out here, is like, what's this idiot doing? And it's like, bam, you're dead. You don't want that. And crap, the stream is dying. And so my tutorial is just going down the drain because we were lagging the internet. Maybe not, but we'll see. So, knowing the difference between sounds, balling your shots, all that is good stuff, and it's important for you to do well in this game. Hearing is critical. Like, it is critical. I cannot stress how critical it is. Some people are great with just their eyes, and that's great, you know? That's great. Like, you see a guy around the corner, you're like, okay, shoot him. But the thing is, some guy might come up behind you, right? There's also all these other strategies, like look at the mini map, right? You hold tab, you see red dots, you see their, you know, where they're going. That helps you as well. So you'd be like, oh, he's probably gonna hide behind the box. You're gonna be like, boom, he's dead, right? Things like that. So use that to your advantage, and I'm sure that you'll become a very good M4 A1 user, right? Of course, you're gonna be at least as good as me. You know, I'm not gonna say you're gonna be the best, but you're gonna be at least as good as me. If you consider me like very good, then you know, then I guess you'll be very good. And so that's all I have for the M4, I think. If you have any questions, you know, put them in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. GLA in real life. Peace.